Hello everyone, I am Beth Golden. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to do a technique that was requested by one of you guys, and this is basically a bleach out technique. I'm going to be using a stamp and a stencil along with my dye ink pad. You do need to have a dye ink pad for this to work, and this should work regardless of what kind you use. I'm using my favorite because it's easiest to blend. I'm starting off with this mixed media type paper. It's super thick, and I want to layer on a very thick layer of ink first, as you can see what I'm doing here with this blending tool. I'm doing the Simon Hurley inks just because I like the way that they blend, and I also think that it's harder to get mud with these. However, any kind of dye ink would work. You want dye ink because it reacts nicely with water, but it doesn't completely fall apart when you do add water to it. So as you can see, I went in with my darker color first, and now I'm going in with my traffic cone. This is my second shade. Instead of building up from lightest to darkest with this particular technique, I like to build up with darkest to lightest, and the least amount or smallest space, I should say, of color that I put down is the lightest, because when you use this technique, the heavier the pigment is, the darker, I should say, the color is, the more it lifts and contrasts with what's under it, and that's super important. I'm using this first one with a stencil. My stencils that I'm using, my stencil and my stamp that I'm using today are by Art by Marlene. You can find all of their products at the shop that I'm listing down below, as well as I have a full supply list for everything else provided as well in the description box, so make sure you check that out. All right, now that I have my color laid, I'm just going to go over it with some water, and I mist it on, and I carefully lift it with a paper towel. And as you can tell, it doesn't look like it's doing much, but as it dries, it starts to lighten up even more. I am hitting it with the heated tool, and as you can tell, it gives a really pretty subtle look to it. So now we're going to go in with the purple and a really pretty pink and a blue. You guys, purple is a kind of a tricky color to work with, because if it blends with anything other than blue and red, its parents' colors, what I like to call them, you usually end up with mud. I am on the borderline with this, and I would not do this color combination with any other ink besides the Simon Hurley ink, because I know it will work. My blue will always play nicely. It's called Clear Skies. That shade will always play nicely with purple. However, I am venturing in to some danger area with the Prom Queen because it's a pink, but his ink blends so lovely together. I know that I'm not going to get mud. I'm just going to get a very pretty blend and a beautiful background. Now, since this is a darker color combination, that Crown Me is a really beautiful, vibrant purple. It's going to lift more so than the last color combination that we did. And I am keeping in mind my color families as I do this technique. I don't want to mix warms with cools, because I will end up with a muddy mess. Again, the ink doesn't usually do that. I don't know what is in this ink or why it doesn't create as much mud or give the potential for mud like you would with other inks, but I find that for the beginner, when they want to mix colors, this is a really nice set to start with. However, you know, whenever you blend, you could get mud regardless, but you're less likely with Simon Hurley. This is also another stamp by Art by Marlene, and I'm just mixing it down with some water, popping it in the stamp press. The stamp press you can also find at that store that I'm going to list too. And I am really pressing it in. I stood up, really pressing it in. I really want that water to get in there and absorb into that paper. And boom, look at that prettiness. I did dry that off screen. I'm going to finish up these cards and I'm going to ink up these edges first with some archival ink. It just adds a little bit of definition to the edges of the card. And then I'm going to work through quickly for you how I like to do cards. So this is, normally I would show you how I make one card at a time. But this time I'm going to show you how I do both of these together. And I'm taking some gloss spray by Dina Wakley, and I'm just putting it on both cards. I'm predominantly using 2 colors on each card, but I'm doing it right next to each other, so I'm totally okay if some of those colors bleed over, or I shouldn't say bleed, but speckle both sides, so to speak. And I want there to be a contrast, so that's why I'm doing opposite colors. I'm doing cools on top of that warm background, and then on the purple I'm doing like a yellow. And the reason is because the glossy spray does not necessarily dry into and interact and change with the dye ink. It totally holds its own integrity for the life of the card, which I really, really like. If you guys are enjoying this video, I hope that you like it for me so I can tell. Also, if you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them down below. I love to interact with you guys. And like I said, this video was at a request of someone who commented on a video I did a couple weeks ago about wishing I had slowed down so that they could see the process, because they wanted to know how to do this technique. So I do listen to y'all. I'm using pop dots on this, speeding this up. But again, I'm doing both of these cards at the same time. Super easy, and it's really cute. I absolutely love those little images. They are from a die cut book, which is art by Marlene. And I'm going to show it to you in a few seconds here. That's it. There's no cutting. It's awesome. You don't cut it, and there are 2 of each image, over 250. And it's such a beautiful images. Like, the images are gorgeous, bright, colorful, and I didn't have to stamp anything. I literally just punched it out. I didn't have to cut it. I didn't have to put it through my my scan and cut too. I just was able to punch it out, and it was ready to go. I used pop dots, and then I also used the little gems from the line too, and it's just came together so easily. There's even sentiments in that little book. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. Make sure you check out the description box if you're interested in any of the products I use. I do have that there for your convenience. Until next time, happy crafting. I'm Bets Golden.